My name is Joe McVeigh. I'm a member of the Library Board of Trustees and also the chair of the Ilsley 100 project team, which is a group that has been charged by the select board to move this project ahead. We are very grateful to our partners and colleagues at Middlebury Community Television for recording this and sending it out for live broadcast. So for the benefit of those watching later, it's April 15th, 2024. This is the public information meeting of the proposed Ilsley Public Library renovation and expansion project. So we thank you so much for your interest, and especially those of you who've been interested in supporting this project for a long time. And just before we get started, I want to thank a few people who've helped us get to where we are, and that starts with our select board, and I see we have a few of our select board members here tonight. Izzy Gogardi and Heather Seeley and Dan Brown and Farhad Khan. And am I missing anyone? Thank you for your support. We also have from our town administration, our town manager, Kathleen Ramsey, in the back, who's been absolutely essential in this process. We also have Karen Mott, our town clerk, who is going to be very important in the upcoming bond vote on May 7th. And we also want to acknowledge our Director of Planning and Zoning, Jen Murray, who's going to be increasingly important as this project proceeds. We have a few of our library trustees here tonight. One of those is Meg Baker, who's the president of the library. You have to raise your hand a little higher there, Meg, okay? And also Barbara Doyle-Wilch in the back as well. And here's another select board member, Fred Dunnington. Yay? All right, thank you. Come on in, there's room for everyone. We'd also like to acknowledge our Friends of the Library organization, and Amy Mincher is one of those friends who is here. The Friends of the Library are a separate 501c3 nonprofit organization. Here's Lori Muller, a past president of the Friends of the Library. They do a lot for us. They help to sponsor almost all of our programming, as well as they've also been very, very helpful to us as we are moving ahead with this project as well. And finally, there's a group of people who've been working steadfastly on this project for at least 2 years, which is the Ilsley 100 project team. And some of those people are here tonight, and they include Jim Gish, right? Farhad Khan, okay? Dan Brown, Judith Harris, who has been acting as our clerk of the works, okay? Let's see, Amy Mincher. Oh, sorry, Barbara Doyle-Wilch. I beg your pardon. Sorry, the sun's in my eyes here. Barbara Doyle-Wilch next to Judith, okay? Amy Mincher, and let's see, and of course our library director, Dana. So, here's our plan for tonight. Our plan tonight is in 3 parts. We're going to do 3 things. We're going to start off with a presentation. We'd then like to show you a brief informational video, and then we'll get to what is really the heart of the evening, the question and answer session. So in our presentation, we're going to have Dana Hart, the director of the library, talk a little bit about the mission of the library, our needs, the history of the project to this point. And then we're very happy to have with us a couple of members of our design team, Chris Huston from ReArch company, and Michael Mendeo from Weimann Lamphere. They'll be walking us through the design of the library as well. We'll talk a little bit about the costs, what we'll do in the meantime, when the library is in the process of construction. So for this presentation, it's helpful if you have a reasonable view of the screen here. Just in case you don't, we've got these design boards here that you can get a close look at after the presentation. And these slides, as well as most of this information, is available on the library's website. So just before we start, I want you to take 2 minutes and turn to a person near you, okay, next to you, close to you, okay? Talk for 2 minutes, okay? I can see Mark Welch rolling his eyes in the back, okay? And I want you to talk about, he's speaking for the room. I just want you to talk about either something you're excited about this project or a question that you have, okay? So something you're excited about or a question that you have. Okay, you've got 2 minutes. Find somebody. Excited, question, go.
Well, you speaking from here?
I think I'm going to stand up.
Okay. Yeah.
That way I can talk.
Good.
on the slides.
Yeah. Good. Sounds good.
I've been sitting down all day.
Yeah, I know. Do you have a standing desk?
Yeah, I do, but I never use it.
Yeah.
You can advance the slides with the arrows.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
You brought your own chime.
It's much better than yelling or the hand raising thing.
It's very civilized.
Yeah,
Very civilized.
I like it.
It's a yoga chime. Some people have them on their phones, like, same thing. See, you didn't want to do it, and now that you're doing it, you don't want to stop. So that's all right. Okay, so I wanted to mention that we do have a few handouts on the table here in the center of the room. Some of you may have seen these handouts before. There's 10 great things you're going to love about the new library. There's some frequently asked questions, and there are also some floor plans if you haven't had a chance to look at that. We'll be showing the floor plans later on. It might be easier to follow if you've got one of those. Now, for this evening's informational meeting, we have assembled a stellar panel of people who've been involved in this project. And among those is Chris Huston. Wave, Chris. All right. Chris Huston is the Vice President of Pre-Construction at ReArch company. He is a licensed architect, and some of you may know him because he spent many years working locally as an architect with the Breadloaf Corporation. However, for our project, he has given up that responsibility, or he's sharing it with others, and his focus is more on the nuts and bolts of the project, including construction and costs. If you have questions about money, you want to talk to Chris. Okay. Also, to his right, your left, is Michael Minadeo. Michael is the design director at Weimann Lamphere Architects. He has spearheaded the design and architecture of this project. In addition to his 2 degrees in architecture, Michael has 30 years of experience in design and architecture. His work has won numerous design awards, and his writing on architecture has appeared in many publications. So we're really glad that we have them as part of our design team. Most of you know our library director, Dana Hart. There are a few things you may not know about Dana. One is that we lured Dana to Middlebury under false pretenses. We said, hey, Dana, come to Middlebury. We're going to have a new library built, and you'll just have to raise a little money. And things didn't quite turn out that way. But there is, however, a silver lining, because although there was not a brand new library built upon her arrival, she's had the opportunity to have all kinds of input into the new library we're hoping to build. But in addition to her bachelor's degree in English, language and literature, and political science, Dana has 2 master's degrees, one in art history, another in library and information science. Prior to coming to be director of the Ilsley Public Library, she worked for the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York and has taught a course at Middlebury College on print culture and the history of the book. So here to start us off with an overview of the library itself, its needs, and our process, please help me welcome to the podium Library Director Dana Hart.
Thank you, Joe, for that generous intro. Thank you all for being here. As many of you may know, the library is coming up on our 100th anniversary. In September, we will celebrate 100 years in the current library building. So Ilsley has been a critical resource in Middlebury for almost a century now. Of course, the way libraries serve their communities has changed a lot over the past 100 years. If I had to sum it up, I would say we are still about books, absolutely, but we're also about a lot more than books. So we offer, we have a huge collection of circulating items, so books, but also non-traditional things like e-bikes. We offer many different services, we plan programs, and of course we offer spaces. So spaces for community meetings, spaces to work or learn remotely, spaces to just rest and be warm and comfortable. All this use really adds up. We are an incredibly busy library. We're an incredibly well-used resource. Middlebury, of course, is not one of the bigger cities in Vermont, but the Ilsley Public Library is consistently ranked as one of the top 3 public libraries in the state in terms of usage. So we really are a very special library and a very busy one that serves not just Middlebury, but many of the surrounding towns as well.
What year is this?
2020 is from our last fiscal year, so July 1st through June 30th of 2023. Yeah. And these are little snippets from our annual report, and if anyone would like a copy, I have some. I'm happy to hand them out, and they're on our website. So we have a lot of great things going for us. The library is very well loved, but our building does hold us back in a couple of significant ways. Some of these things are they come with age, so our elevator and our boiler are pretty old now. They are not reliable. We are not ADA compliant, so we're not terribly accessible in some significant ways. We have leaks in both the basement and the ceiling. So those are all pretty significant challenges, but perhaps most frustrating as a librarian is that we just don't have enough space to carry out our mission. And the spaces that we do have are not flexible, so we're not nimble. We can't adapt easily to the community's changing needs. So the community has known for a pretty long time that that the facilities need to be addressed. So several iterations of library trustees have been working on this for a long time. The Library Building Committee made a huge amount of progress between 2014 and 2017. And as Joe mentioned, the group that's been moving this forward most recently is the Ilsley 100 project team, which is a group of select board members, library trustees, and community members. They've been working for 2.5 years now. I've been a part of it the whole way. I have to say it's been a very measured, methodical approach, and I think they've done a great job of including the community in the design process kind of every step of the way. So I think I'm going to turn it over now to Chris, and I hope everyone sees themselves and Michael. I hope you see your own input in these designs, because community input really has been critical.
Great, thank you, Dana, so much. I thought about the question that Joe posed to us, and I'm going to just share right now. I don't know about you, Michael, but as working on a historic building, from 1924, the 100th year, is really truly a moment in time that I know Michael and I have taken this responsibility very seriously, and we're really excited to have this time with all of you tonight to ultimately answer any questions you have. So that's really the intent of our part of this presentation, is to give you the information that you may haven't seen yet. So with that, we'll just kick things off with, this is your building. You may not have seen it from this exact perspective, but you can see here the 1988 edition. Does that sound okay, by the way? Okay. And your essentially your historic facade front and center. The design that we'll show you really celebrates that, the essence of the original design, as best we can with also creating an addition. In terms of the design concept sketch that we developed really back at the time of the Town Hall Theater presentation, our design concept was predicated on a critical two-story concept. Now, listening to Dana and her staff, that was functionally really, really important to her. Now, it took Michael and the rest of the team a lot of work to get all of the program to fit on those two levels, and we're going to walk you through how that works and feels and looks. But ultimately, we found a lot of organizational simplicity, if you will, by organizing this on two floors. And we'll walk through that. Additionally, one thing that we found was really important, or felt was really important, was to have a very clear public entry from the east side of the building, and we'll show you some images of that, while at the same time having another primary entrance off of Main Street. Dad, Michael,
That's good.
The concept sketch seen more from a human level, looking up at the building. One of our primary drivers was to celebrate the existing building with this sort of lower slung roof terrace, so that you really could see the existing building, the roof shapes, and the materials from a number of different perspectives, and we'll show you those different views in a moment. The other thing that was central to the concept was to have the children's space front and center. It was really important, as you know where it's located currently, having that at the same level as parking, and you literally are rolling in from parking at the same level, which again doesn't happen today.
I would just add, with the sketch, you can't really see it here, and it'll be revealed as we go along, but one of the other driving forces was to really try to reveal as much of the existing building as we could, and that kind of informed where this entry is located. We wanted to actually bring you right by the existing facade, expose that facade from an interior point of view, and then have kind of the juxtaposition of the original building and our new building as you come in. So we try to kind of, in a way, create the street that wraps around the existing building. So that's sort of where that entrance started from.
And we'll show you some very specific examples of what Michael is referring to in just a moment. So this is seen, you can see the bird's eye view from this drone image on this side of the screen, your right. And then our proposed solution to, as Michael said, we're taking the existing building right here, we're demolishing the 88 addition plus the 70s stair and elevator tower right here that you can probably see right out the window, and then wrapping the existing building with the two-story addition. And it is a very tight site. It's quite constrained. You'll see that we're using every inch of it. We also want to point out here in this diagram that we've taken and shifted the parking fairly simply from this location, shifting it, just sort of splaying it out so that it still is that same shape. It's just shifted towards the river, essentially, back in that direction.
And by doing that, we actually gained parking spaces. So that was difficult part of the puzzle was how are we gonna keep all these parking, and by doing this, we're actually, I think, we're 10 positive now. So we're
Possibly.
possibly.
And also
10.
pointing out that this shape is also driven by some existing infrastructure, which was very expensive to install as part of this project, which we're fully aware of, and we're being very respectful of that line right there, which establishes our easterly face. We also want to point out you have the main entrance from Main Street right here. The primary entrance to the building is right here, off of this parking. And then we'll show you a nighttime access entry into what is the community space that can be used after hours.
This diagram shows a study of the new front entrance from Main Street. And one of the challenges was trying to provide a clear single entrance to the new library space, and at the same time have accessibility so that we could, have people that needed handicap accessibility from Main Street, as well as a direct route right into the front door from the street. So this is trying to show, or is showing, I think, a fairly interesting and a graceful attempt at getting you from the lower level up to the main entry door without any railings. So this is a very, very gentle slope of 1 to 20 in both directions that brings you up to the front door. And you'll see in another slide, there's a little built-in seat wall along the back edge, so it's meant to be inviting and to activate the front yard.
So just in case it's not clear, this design does not envision using the current entryway up the stairs. That would no longer be an entry. The main entry would be to the left. Sorry.
And to underscore what Joe just said, we're actually listening through the process. I mean, really, our job is to listen to a wide range of stakeholders and entities and so on. We met with the Division for Historic Preservation, and even in the prior schemes, Glenn Andres was advising us, you really should make your entrance off of Main Street very clear. So it's confusing to have two entrances. Furthermore, if you enter into what is now going to be the great room, it really isn't the right arrival place. So with that, we'll show you, we'll continue on and show you, this is how the two-story scheme fits within the context of downtown. Obviously, you can see town offices here. This, I think, illustrates how the parking is intended to really sort of marry up with the eastern facade of this proposed building. You also see how the existing building is visible with this lower terrace that you see in the foreground, with the two-story portion of the building to the north. You see that the roof line essentially matches the context of the Marquis Theater, so we're roughly at the same height. Right here, you'll see the nighttime access for the community room. So this is your primary entrance right here, and then that secondary entrance is, is for the nighttime access.
What I would also just add to that is the existing garden space, the concept was to retain that space but elevate it onto the second floor. Because of the fact that we were using most of the footprint of the site, we thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if we had this, what we're calling a secret garden on the top roof terrace.
Now, these are all levels of the plan. We know that you're not going to be able to read the spaces. We'll walk through them at a pretty quick pace at a high level, and if there are questions afterwards, either during the question period or afterwards, where we can point directly to things. But ultimately, this is the main level. As I mentioned, you'd be parking right here, entering the building into this large lobby circulation zone. We'll show you some images of in just a minute. It's intended to be very flexible, very multifunctional. It's not just a hallway. Right here is the children's program that is, as we mentioned earlier, is very much the focal point. It's the first space that you see as you arrive. And then encircling, this is the existing building footprint. We have support spaces like the community room, which has nighttime access, or can be closed off to the rest of the building while still using restrooms and core facilities such as that. The current main level is going to be conceived of as a great room. So what you'll see there is that the circulation desk ultimately is no longer going to be front and center. So it'll be like a large living room ultimately. What we're finding in modern libraries is a huge need for small breakout rooms. So meeting spaces, they get booked very, very consistently and thoroughly. So we do have a number of those spaces right in this location and then on the second level as well. Now, I'll point out quickly that there is this floor level change. It's about a half a story from our at-grade floor to the existing. And we'll show you some interior images of how we're navigating that both with stairs and with an elevator. You can see that the upper level, the second floor here, is dedicated largely to the adult collection and also high school, middle school breakout spaces, as well as the terrace, the outdoor program space that Michael referred to a moment ago. And then we're going to make use of the space that is currently the children's in the lower level through Friends of the Library and MCTV storage and other mechanical spaces. We talked about this Main Street entrance and really having our focus be on your beautiful existing building. And one of the things that when we met with the Division for Historic Preservation, they were excited and supportive of having a very simple, sort of glassy, contemporary entrance that is clearly different than your existing, stone facade that's very symmetrical and very traditional. Anything further?
Yeah, I would just say, philosophically, in terms of architectural design, we were trying to do something, I think the opposite of what the addition is doing now. The addition seems to be trying to replicate something of the past, and we found that really to have a successful project, it's good to have a big contrast. And this was meant to be a big window into the library, if you will.
So another sort of human level perspective, looking at the primary entrance from the east. We're envisioning that there may be times when Friends of the Library may have a book sale, or there may be food trucks that occupy the space back there on a Saturday or something of that nature. But again, this also illustrates, this is the town office right here, just sort of seeing the edge of it. And we're really focused, you see the roof lines of the existing library while at the same time our new addition is sort of wrapping around. Anything further, Michael?
No, it's good.
Now this, I'm gonna do this. The next image, we're gonna walk right in the main entry door, and you're just gonna be right inside those entry doors. So now we've just gone inside. You're seeing right here, we're really celebrating the existing facade of the library. That's the east facade. With a skylight, we're bringing natural light in while you're also able to see up and see the rest of that, the extension of that facade. And then the children's section is immediately to your right-hand side. And then straight ahead of you is the main circulation desk. So this is where we're talking about where looking at it as a very multifunctional type of space that can be used in a number of different ways. And then this image is taken at the circulation desk, looking out to Main Street over here. And then that other image we just looked at is back in this direction, if that makes sense to everyone. Here, we're showing you how we're navigating that half level up from the main level, that's at grade, up to the existing great room level. So you've got an elevator right here, stairs that lead you up to this level, and then another half flight up to this second level.
And yes, and you can see a little bit in this rendering, the notion that we're still trying to reveal as much of the existing library as we can. So you see the north wall of the existing library now becomes internal wall. And we're putting some holes, if you will, into the building so that when you come up to that first landing, there are a couple different ways that you can actually get into the great room. So being respectful of the existing facade, but being in a way strategic about how to get into that space.
This next image is of the children's room looking back. You can see this is the parking area. The main entrance view that we saw earlier is sort of behind the big cow. And the interior, we intend to be a very warm selection of materials, very light, a lot of natural light.
Yeah, we'd like to again, to contrast the marble with wood, if we could, you know, have so much wood and a warm feeling. The other thing we're trying to do that you can see in this image is transparency. We're trying to have a lot of glass on all sides so that when you approach the building, you really can see in. It's sort of being the opposite of what the building is doing now.
This is on the upper level. This is the adult collection space. We're envisioning a lot of, you know, potential remote work opportunities and things of that nature, as well as you're looking out from this image out onto the terrace. And I'll just sort of flip this real quick. This is now looking from that perspective, from the terrace back in. So you're literally sitting inside that glassy area when we're looking out. So town office building roof is back here. It'll be a really interesting perspective from that outdoor programming space, you know, down to the parking lot, but also overlooking down to Otter Creek and the other parts of downtown.
I would just add to that last slide, all of that glazing is south facing, so we'll have this really wonderful, you know, south light that'll be coming in and warming up the space, warming up the terrace outside.
By glazing, you mean the yellow and orange? What do you mean by glazing?
Windows.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah, windows, sorry.
okay.
And then here I think illustrates the point we're making about really trying to let your existing building stand on its own ultimately. And anything to add, Michael? You know, and really looking at this last image this is the edge of the existing building. You're looking back into that adult collection area. And this space will certainly be very well protected from winds and so on with its solar orientation. As Michael said, it's really going to be a perfect space. We would envision 3 and 4 season use. Mm-hmm. And we've had a lot of conversations about that space, which we'll get into any questions.
If I could just add a few quick things about the design before you go on to the cost. I think it's really important that everyone knows that this plan, which I think is just so wonderful, doubles the space for youth services. We're going to have double the amount of space for children. And it also adds a number of new spaces, and there weren't renderings of every single one. So that's why I just wanted to make sure everyone knows we are getting 2 additional small meeting spaces for a total of 5 small meeting spaces. We're getting a new conference and flex room. So I think that's like 8 to 10 people. So board meetings, groups like that can come in, classrooms, things like that. We're getting a new library activities room. So that's going to be rubber floors, big sink, lots of storage, perfect for crafts and kids activities or knitting clubs, local, cooking, things like that. And then we're getting that wonderful middle school area, which we don't have now, and a high school area, which we don't have now. So those are all spaces that we have really wanted to be able to offer to the community in the library and just haven't had the space. And this plan somehow miraculously is able to fit it all comfortably onto the site we have. So I applaud you guys for your work there. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Dana. It's great. In terms of looking at the overall total project budget, in summary, we had a detailed estimate that we did in-house at ReArch, working with the entire team, identifying, areas where we needed to apply the overall cost to not only the design and engineering, but then we looked at the site work, and then also the actual sort of bricks and mortar, if you will, of the building construction cost. And that's that first number at the top. You see the 15.3 million. Under that is the owner's costs, which are, and you see the asterisks there. It's, you know, permits, it's furniture, it's a whole host of you know, costs and fees and things like that that are typically structured in a municipal project such as this, and that's that $1.64 million. And all of these numbers have, as I mentioned, a great deal of detail to support them. So that gives us a total project budget of just under 17 million. You see this fairly large tax credit and rebate, the $500,000. That's because we've included in the base number of the project a geothermal heating and cooling system. It is by far the most efficient system, and certainly this takes into consideration the Inflation Reduction Act. That's where that rebate is coming from. So that gets us to a $16.4 million project cost. Dana?
Yes, okay, so 16.4, we all knew from the beginning that it wasn't gonna be cheap to achieve an ambitious project like this, a public building of this scale and complexity. So as long as the project team has been working on the designs, they've also been working on a funding plan. And I'm happy that I get to come up and stand in front of you tonight and say that we do have a really strong funding plan that I think will deliver this project to Middlebury in a way that doesn't overly burden community members and taxpayers. So we've set a goal to get $6 million in private donations. So we have started a capital campaign. We are optimistic that we will get $2 million in grant funding. About 1.5 million of that we expect to come from the the Vermont Department of Libraries. And then we have a number of different grant applications out to hopefully bring in the remaining 500,000. The Middlebury Select Board has put forward the idea of paying for up to $4 million through the local option tax. That would be over the course of the 20-year life of the bond. And that would leave just under $4.5 million that would be borrowed through the bond that taxpayers would be paying back. And I don't know if you can read the asterisks down here, so I will read it for you, that the tax impact of a 20-year bond for $4.5 million would equal $39 per $100,000 of assessed property value annually. So for essentially a $17 million project, community members would be paying 4.5, or just about a quarter of the total cost. It's really important to know that if you vote, when you go to the ballot on May 7th, the number on that ballot will be $17 million, because the town is legally obligated to bond for up to the total project cost. But with this funding plan, we anticipate that taxpayers will only be paying back 4.5 of that total project cost. Does that make sense? Did I explain it clearly? Okay. I see some nods, so I'll take that as affirmation. I mentioned the capital campaign. We are still in the early phase of that campaign, and I expect we'll be in that kind of quiet phase for a little while longer. But I am really happy to be able to share with everyone tonight that so far we have already received $3.3 million in gifts and pledges. So we're over 50% of the way there. It is an absolutely phenomenal vote of confidence in the project and in our mission, and it's very exciting, and we're off to a great start. So I'm happy to be able to share that tonight. Let's see. So what to expect in terms of going forward. We will have one more public meeting the night before the bond, May 6th, right here, same time, same place, don't miss it. May 7th will be the bond vote, also right here in the town offices, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. If the bond vote passes, we will work with our design team starting in the summer through the fall on design development and construction documents. The capital campaign will continue. Grant applications will continue. January 2025 is when the project would go out to bid. We would move into our temporary location probably in February, and then construction would start in April of 2025. So I think construction is scheduled to be 56 weeks or somewhere around there. So we would expect to move back into the new library in July of 2026 or thereabouts. The really exciting news, which isn't new news anymore, but I'm still excited about it, is we have secured our temporary location for library operations. Thanks to the National Bank of Middlebury, we have a wonderful space downtown. The bank has really generously donated the use of the first floor of the Duclos building. So we will be moving library operations there, a slightly scaled down version of library operations. It's a smaller space than we're used to. So you can think of it as a mini library. We won't be able to fit the whole collection there. I don't know where the rest of it's gonna go yet, but we will find a place for it. And we will hopefully still be able to page books from the collection, and we'll certainly be able to take advantage of interlibrary loan. And we're also part of something called the home card system, which allows Ilsley patrons to check out books from other libraries in Addison County. So we will be able to get books for everyone, don't worry about that. And we will continue to have limited programming and all the wonderful things you expect from the library already. So I think we're not gonna do questions yet, right? Because we're gonna do the video.
We know you have questions. We want to answer your questions, but just before we do that, we'd like to share a little bit more information with you with a short video. And thanks to our excellent design team for putting this together. Maybe I could make it big for you so you could all see it. That'd probably be good.
My favorite part about coming to the library is reading the books and doing one of the clubs.
I like the graphic novel section. I really do enjoy coming to the library. I do chess club and checking out books, and I think it's a really good place.
Hi, I'm Dana Hart. I'm the director of the Ilsley Public Library. The Ilsley Library was originally built in 1924. The library is the heart of the community. It's the public square in Middlebury.
I think the Ilsley is a centerpiece for the community in its role to foster lifelong learning and literacy from the earliest stages all the way up through the end of life.
The library does serve many roles in this community. One of the most important roles, in my view, is the programming that goes on here. It has just exploded.
I think it would be good if we could have a bigger space for the clubs.
We could have clubs at the same time.
What makes our programming so successful is that we try to be directly responsive to what the community is asking for. This is just an aging building, and so a lot of the systems and infrastructure that we have is near the end of its life cycle, or is failing, or just needs to be replaced. Our water and the sewer pipes in this building also have challenges that result in periodic flooding in the basement. That's where the kids are. We really don't like that. The building really holds us back from fulfilling our mission in some pretty significant ways. Our entrances are not very accessible. They're certainly not welcoming for people that have mobility-related disabilities. But really fundamentally, we just don't have enough space to carry out our mission, and the spaces that we do have are not flexible in a way that allows us to adapt to the community's changing needs.
I was asked to serve on the Ilsley 100 committee with several other local citizens to develop a plan along with the library staff, not just renovate it for the physical infrastructure improvements that needed, but to take a close look at what the community's needs would be in the library over the next generation or two. This is a rigorous process. The team looked very carefully at all the plans that were presented to us. They looked extremely carefully at the cost of those plans, and I can assure the community that this was a job well done.
The select board endorsed moving forward with the renovation and expansion on site. And that was so appealing for two reasons, really. The first is that it would allow us to expand with enough square feet to realize our vision for a new library. at a lower cost than building new. And it allows us to maintain the existing historic building, which was so important to the community. The new Ilsley Public Library is going to be a welcoming, safe, accessible community center. It is going to be flexible so we can continue to adapt to our community's changing needs. It really prioritizes children. The kids are in a really big, generous, light-filled space. There will be a new primary entrance right by the parking. When families enter the new library, the kids' space is right next to the primary entrance. And we're also going to have a new entrance on Main Street. I'm absolutely thrilled that there's a space for teens in this new building. They don't feel like we have prioritized them, and this is our chance to show them that yes, we want you here. We're going to give you your own space, and you can be safe and do homework and hang out and just have a great time at the library. We will have a really beautiful, large, second floor outdoor area, which will be open to the community and will be available for library programs. From a community perspective, there's a whole section of the library that is going to be able to be booked by members of the community. We are going to have a bigger, improved community meeting room, as well as a separate small conference room, and then a separate library activities room. And community members will be able to sign up and use all of those spaces even after library hours. It is going to be efficient. We know how important it is to the community that we have the sustainable and energy efficient building. It'll be absolutely lovely.
I'm very excited about new opportunities for families with young children, for adults who are looking for activities, for a place for our community to gather.
This project is not cheap. We wouldn't want it to be inexpensive because this needs to last. That cost, totaling 16+ million, won't be totally borne by the taxpayers. Thanks to successful fundraising and a local option tax, the cost to taxpayers is estimated to be 4.5 million. The costs are real, but they've been whittled down as much as possible without sacrificing good programming space and a quality product that we can all be proud of.
We've been working on this project for literally years. What we're really hoping is that a new and renovated library is going to bring more people to our downtown businesses, and really help revitalize our community.
And I think now is the right time. Community buildings and spaces that bring people together are really critical right now.
I'm excited about the project. I'm really excited about the project.
I love this town, and I'm really excited about the role of the library in our town and about what the future holds for Ilsley Library. And I hope you will join me in supporting this much-needed renovation.
There you go. Okay, so now we welcome your questions at this time. As a reminder, because we are broadcasting and recording this for Middlebury Community Television, we need for your questions to be audible. So you've got two choices. If you want, you can approach one of these microphones at one of these tables and ask your question directly. If you want to stay where you are, and I know the acoustics are good in this room, but I will just repeat your question so that it can be heard elsewhere. And then just one reminder, which is that at this point in the project, we've completed what's known as schematic design. What schematic design means is we've got a good idea of where our major spaces are. We have a good idea of the program in general. We have a very good idea of how much it's going to cost, but there are a lot of things that we haven't decided yet and that we don't know yet. You know, what color are the walls going to be? What exactly is that exterior cladding going to be like? There are a lot of decisions that have not yet been made. So we would encourage your questions to be a little bit more sort of big picture. So.
Hi. Me?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So thank you for the presentation. It was excellent, and it's beautiful. Your plans, you've obviously put a lot of work into it. As you pointed out, the front from the main street is huge contrast to the current building, and a huge contrast to every other building up and down Main Street, which is primarily all brick, stone, marble. It seems like it's out of place. From my way of thinking, it doesn't blend in. And yet, Michael, in your presentation, you said something I heard I think, something to the effect that you wanted a huge contrast to make it work. And from my way of thinking, that makes no sense, so I'm hoping you can enlighten me.
So the question is, it appears that the new part of the entrance on Main Street, the glass, is in rather stark contrast to the existing building and to other buildings on Main Street. Why would you want to do that?
Well, I guess what I meant in terms of work is architecturally. You know, there's sort of one philosophy. If you're going to add on to a building, you can either try to mimic what this building is like, and I think it's a little bit like what you have currently there, or you can decide, which is the way we went, to be actually respectful to the existing building, not to do that, because it is not of our time. It's not 1924, and to actually show the contrast of where we are today and where the building was in the past. And we talked to the preservation people here, and they really believe that that's a really good way to approach it, because you're really, in that sense, you're paying homage to the existing building. You're not trying to mimic it, because it'll never be as good as what's here. When I made first presentation, I made this sort of joking analogy about the Louvre in Paris. I don't know if you know that project, but it's in Paris, and it's in, you know, the context of all these beautiful Parisian buildings. And right in the middle of this courtyard, there is a glass pyramid, and that has become now the main entrance into the Louvre. And everybody at the time was saying the same thing, like, I don't understand, this is just disrespectful. But over time, people really have come to appreciate it and love it, because in effect it actually is showing off the existing context. So that's the way we approached it.
I would just note that as part of this process, we empaneled a group of architects to review the plans for the design competition, including two people who are very, very familiar with historic preservation of existing buildings. And we were told fairly directly that the best practice these days, if you're going to put an addition on a historic building, is not to try to make it look like the existing building, but to contrast it. That is sort of more respectful to the original building. So. Good. Let me move on, and I'll let you guys talk about it afterwards, if that's okay, so we can get in some other questions that people might have. Heather? Yeah.
Excuse me, I have a question about the roof. Is it flat?
The question is the roof flat? And if so, could you explain why you would do that here in Vermont, where we have snow and stuff?
Thank you, Joe. It's actually, and this might sound like a smart aleck response, it is pitched to an internal drain system, so as otherwise known as a flat roof, but but it is a very common practice here in New England as well, is to have flat roofs which has a membrane and has an internal drain system, as I mentioned, to collect the water and so on, and essentially bring that water through down downspouts and so on, into the building and out to the stormwater system. It's very common.
But Chris, I know of buildings that had flat roofs.
Sure.
And they leaked.
Sure, I know. Thank you, Joe. And I know of a lot of. And
what do you have to say to that?
What I have to say is
that was a while back.
Yeah, when we're designing roofs, it's really about the intersection. So I also know a lot of pitched roofs with a lot of complicated roofs that also leak. So it's really in the detailing of how we look at how all those pieces are coming together. I mean, we have the main flat roof, which mirrors, the Marquis Theater and other buildings sort of throughout the downtown. So we're very comfortable in designing a building like this with a flat roof or a series of flat roofs.
And if I could just add to that, that's also kind of following that philosophy of having a contrasting language to the existing building. So by doing that, we were trying to be, again, respectful to the existing roof lines of the original building, and actually trying to make our roof sit as low as possible, if you will, so it would actually wrap the building and not again, feel like it's competing with the existing building.
Heather, I'm going to let you follow up with them later. Let's go with Marita and then Lily and then Lori. Okay, so Marita,
So I would like to take us back to the floor plans.
the floor plans.
I mean, first of all, I'm really excited about the children's area and the doubling of it. And my vision was that the programs for children could also happen outside. Could you take us through the traffic pattern from the children's room to the outside?
So the question is, how would, if you wanted to have children on the outside roof, outside programming space on the second floor, but the children's room is on the first floor, how would they get up there?
Yep, so here's the elevator right in the middle. Here's the children's room. So if the kids were in the children's room, they would come right out here and go up the elevator or the stairs. Their stairs are right there as well. And then you emerge right here on the second floor, and there's the door. So it's really stacked pretty, it's 2 floors apart, but it's stacked pretty vertically.
Can I
Yeah, okay.
do a follow-up question? But it would take them through the adult section for a little while, is that correct, or?
They would go through the adult collection.
Okay.
Livening things up for the adults.
They could also choose to go through, there's a second stairwell here. So there are other ways to get there, but I think the most direct would be,
Through that.
Okay. Lily,
Okay, just something to think about.
Mine's actually a follow-up to where the roof of the original library, how does that relate to the new roof? Where's that snow going?
so the question is, how does the roof of the original library relate to the new roof? Where does the snow go when it comes off the old library's roof?
So it's interesting thinking about the existing building and what happens now to snow that lands on the roof, and does it come down on sidewalks or in the front, etc. We will have, I think, as you're astutely seeing in our drawings, we're going to have the sloped roof of the existing building tying in with the flat roof of the new. And again, those flat roofs will be slightly pitched internally, which is again a very common situation. Does that answer your question or not?
It looks to me like there's a gap between them, but also is there rain and snow coming onto the skylights out on the terrace?
So the question is there rain and snow coming down onto skylights on the terrace, and is there a gap there
On the right-hand side.
on the right-hand side?
There's certainly some geometries, quite honestly, that the model we've not quite tied those out. But this would be coming in and meeting the existing roof and sort of marrying up to a flat roof where it's coming down on both on the hip roof. Your second question was regarding the skylights. We would have those with a slight pitch. They wouldn't be, totally flat, so that the water would run off of that surface. And I will say that in this early schematic design phase, we do have some of the first things that we're going to do is really get into the technical details of how we're connecting this to that and so on of that nature. We have done a lot of the studies with the engineers, mechanical, electrical, civil engineering, looking at where is all the infrastructure going. We actually had to line test a pipe to find out where it actually went, because it wasn't on any drawings and so on. So there's that kind of immediate steps we're going to take to be looking at structural, solutions and things like that.
Thank you, Lily. Just, Lori, did you have a question or no?
I just wanted to ask, when Michael speaks, if he could use the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
But it's difficult for me to hear.
We will ask Michael to use the microphone.
Okay, I will, sorry, yes.
So I had a question about the way the parking is set up. In the existing parking, there's already a steep slope problem, and there's been a failed steep slope in the past. With the way the parking is set up now, with the angle, it's hard to see here because this diagram does not really show it appropriately, but there will be, the present slope will be cut back all
Correct.
How will that be dealt with?
So the question is, with the parking being tilted a little bit, there is an embankment behind going down the hill to the lower parking lot. How is that going to be addressed?
It will in part be addressed by a retaining wall. So right here, as you say, this is where the slope, that sort of grassy slope, heads down to the lower parking. Working with Otter Creek Engineering, talking about what we carried in our estimate. We've got a retaining wall that runs, that length to basically make sure that your parking is flat, it's on one level. And, you can see this dashed line is where where it is right now, and we're pushing it out that degree. We'll have to also work with the slope of the existing drive access that goes from lower to upper. But working with the engineers, we're confident that can work as we've considered it.
I just wanted to circle back for a minute to something that Michael mentioned earlier, which is that we'd originally thought that by canting the parking in this way, we would be able to maintain all of the existing parking spaces. That is correct. And the team also came up with a brilliant idea to add 10 additional parking spaces in the lower parking lot. That is possible, but that is not currently included in the price tag of this project. So that would need to be something that would come a little bit later. Farhad?
Yeah, I have a follow-up to Heather's question about the flat roof. Would that add to the maintenance expenses to take care of the snow and stuff?
The question is, would the flat roof add to maintenance expenses, particularly as it relates to snow?
Farhad, if I understand your question, essentially that snow is going to sit on the roof. The roofs are insulated. We will likely be exceeding the code minimum level of insulation. So that snow sits up there until it melts. So there really is no additional.
The weight?
That's all part of a code, code requirements that we need to follow in terms of understanding the weight of loads such as snow.
Even on the skylights?
Yep, not an issue. Yeah.
You mentioned the possibility of four-season use of the outdoor space, and I'm curious to know how snow is going to be managed in that space.
The question is, how would snow be managed in the outdoor programming space?
Yeah, so I can try and speak to that. The outdoor programming space, as Chris said, it's going to be south facing, so it should get good sun. And it's going to be kind of protected on three sides from walls, so I'm hopeful that we won't have the huge snow embankments if we get a big storm. Snow management up there, though, it will be up to us, so we'll shovel a small space out. We're used to that. We do a lot of shoveling at the library now, just for sidewalks and things like that. So when we say it'll be used for seasons, I think in the winter, the space that we use will be a little bit smaller when it's really snowy out, because we'll be clearing that space. But envisioning, on warm-ish, sunny winter days, if it gets up to 40 or something, I could see people wanting to sit outside in the sun for a little bit and have a coffee, and we would clear a space in the snow for some of the outdoor furniture.
But you'll recall that the concept is that we're essentially lifting the garden.
Yeah.
And if you think about how we use the existing garden in the winter, not all that. Jim, were you addressing that point? Okay. I'm sorry, I'll get to you in just a second.
Sort of, I'm still curious, so you're going out to shovel that snow, are you dumping it over the side into the parking lot?
No, I don't think we'd be dumping. It would just be going to the perimeter. It's a pretty large space, and so we would just be pushing it out, yeah. And to Joe's point, the garden gets use in the winter right now. I wouldn't say it's a huge amount of use in the winter, but we consistently have people sitting out there on the benches using the Wi-Fi. So I would expect we would maybe have the same or a little bit more use on that roof in the winter.
I think children can play in the snow too.
Children can play in the snow. And my dream is that we vastly exceed our fundraising goal and we're able to put in heated cobblestones and it will all melt away. I'm sorry, I've lost track of who. Linda?
Yeah, just a quick question about getting back to cost and maintenance as Farhad and somebody else brought up. What are we looking at for yearly maintenance?
more or less.
Do we know what our yearly maintenance costs will be?
We have not run those calculations at this time. Yep. Yeah.
Well, one thing that we do know is that our geothermal heating and cooling system will cost more initially to install, but will save us money in the long run.
That was my question about your geothermal. Are you using, I assume you're using parking lot?
Could you tell us a little bit more about the geothermal plans?
Explain that, because I'm probably one of the few in here that even understands it.
Sure.
I'll give you credit over here. I said one of the few. So, and has that been determined that that space is big enough to adequately heat this building?
It's actually a really great question, and knowing the importance of what the site will support for geothermal, we had a feasibility study conducted, which located the best sort of vein, if you will, for geothermal access to water, which actually is down towards the bottom of the access ramp on the lower level. So that's actually where we're finding the best access to water and where we're planning to install the wells.
So you're doing it with wells and not the actual parking lot itself?
Correct. We're doing it with wells. Yep.
In the back?
Since we're on sustainability, I'm sure you've considered solar on that nice flat roof. Can you tell me the story about why it's not incorporated in the current plan?
Can you please explain why solar is not incorporated in the current plan?
The simple answer to that is that the actual roof area is not as significantly large as you would think when you're really looking at that upper level. And in addition to that, we will have some mechanical equipment up there that we'll have to screen and so on. So by the time that we invest in the infrastructure, and we did look into this, but ultimately the investment isn't worth the infrastructure here. Not unlike this building, the town decided to source electricity from an outside, off-site location.
Victoria?
Going back to your contrast to the older structure, why glass? Why can't you use other material? I say this from the perspective of our light pollution problem in this town will only get worse with your large expanses of glass walls. The sun doesn't shine all the time, so you've got heat loss in the winter. The sun sometimes is more than we want in the summer, so you've got heat gain. How about contrasting with solid materials that make more useful space inside and cut down on the glare and the light loss and the, all sorts of energy efficiency issues?
So the question is, modern materials, okay, why so much glass when there's a possibility of light pollution and less usable interior space?
Well, I think, conceptually, again, the idea was to create a transparent library, if you will, something that people can see in and feel warm and inviting in contrast to what's there. So that was the first, I would say, architectural move. The things that you're speaking to, we can handle those in a variety of ways. There's new technology that's with glazing. There can be various shade devices used. Again, this is schematic design, so all of those images are probably showing more glass than actually will be there. It's meant to show that idea. But as we design further and develop things, there'll be less glass, I'm sure.
I also just wanted to add to the point of light pollution. It looks to me like the most glass is on that Main Street facade, and that part of the library closes at 6 p.m. So the lights won't be on when it's dark, basically. The parts of the library that are used after hours are in the back, and there are windows, but there are fewer windows into the community meeting room and the spaces that will tend to be lit up overnight.
And Victoria, one more thing to add to it is simply that we studied the overall exterior square footage of the whole building, which is something that we have to do as part of the code review that's required, because you can't exceed a certain overall percentage of windows versus solid wall. And we fall, it's a code, again, to your point of having too much glass. So we fall under that threshold as we're currently designed for the overall building. So as Dana just mentioned, there are lots of portions of the building that actually don't have glass, like the whole wall of, largely the wall of the community room, which is up against the theater wall and sharing that wall. So a lot of the perimeter there's not a lot of windows.
Well, I think there's around the kids' room, the community room, onto the outdoor space.
And I think we'll point out that there is an alternative point of view here, which is that many people enjoy having more natural light in the building. Jim, did you?
Yeah, could you talk about the plans for MCTV?
Could you talk about the plans for Middlebury Community Television?
Oh, sure, I can do it. Or Kurt can do it. He's here. So MCTV will move down out of their current third floor space. They will have a new space on the second floor of the addition. It will be a big square, which is exactly what Kurt has asked for. It'll be a very flexible space that they can use as the studio. And then MCTV will also have space in the basement for storage. And if you go back to the floor plan, I can show you. I'll just point out where it is for everyone. Okay, so here's the second floor. Whoop. This square right there, rectangle, will be the MCTV studio. It was important to us that it be near the middle school and high school because MCTV does a lot of programming with teens. So that's a nice adjacency. And then it's also right next to this tiny little room called the Digital Media Lab. That room already exists in the current building. It gets a lot of use. It's a really important resource. It's one of the only spaces in the library that you can make totally private. So people use it for telemedicine and personal Zooms, things like that. But there's also a lot of specialized equipment in there, and MCTV provides the training on how to use that equipment. So very nice that MCTV is still next, or will be next to that space. They're not now. And then in the basement, this square will be MCTV's additional storage.
Yes.
Sorry, one more. Conceptually, I just want to make sure I'm clear. The original building, reading room, and space is not at ground level. It's sort of a half in between.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Sorry, Lily?
It's time for the garden vegetation maintenance future questions. I have loads of them. I don't know how far along you are in that. Are you hiring a landscape architect? Do you have water access? How do you take all the debris from maintenance through the library to get rid of it? How do you bring up material to, fertilizer or mulch, or like how have you gone through all of those thoughts about how that actually practically works?
So the question is about the vegetation in the outdoor programming area in terms of the practical usage there. How do you water the plants? How do you bring up fertilizer or mulch? How do you get rid of the extra plants? Debris, thank you.
So this space will likely not have mulch or things of that nature. It's going to be designed more, you can begin to see the intent there of like, we'll have some planters and things of that nature. But it certainly is an area that we will need to detail and focus on in this next level of design to see what makes sense, to your points, what makes sense. Can we have planters that are, trees, if you will, of a certain size in a planting, not in a planting bed up on a roof, but, what's possible. You can see that we're showing some furniture out there as well. How much of that is actual hardscape with perimeter planters as shown, and because we really want this to be as multifunctional as possible for a lot of that outdoor programming.
So I hear this as a question, but also essentially a plea to please be mindful of these issues going forward. Yeah.
Will you have a landscape architect involved?
Will you have a landscape architect involved?
Yes, we'll certainly as part of the project.
Okay.
Joe, one more question here about the garden. Children, supervised, unsupervised, what age limits are going to be? Have children running around up there with monitors or supervisors or unsupervised?
The question is, what the heck are we going to do with kids running around in the upper outdoor programming area?
Yeah, so the library has a policy on children in the library, and we just rewrote it, so I might forget the exact age, but I believe it's children under 8 need to be, okay, my board president is giving me the thumbs up. Children under 8 need to be supervised by an adult. So there shouldn't be anyone under 8 running around unsupervised anywhere in the library, really. But we will not have a library staff member stationed out there, you know, checking ID cards, making sure. So it's,
At least to begin
yeah,
with.
at least to begin with. Oh gosh, yeah, okay, that's a good caveat, I guess.
Well, I am sensing the questions are waning a little bit here. They're not quite done. Let's take one more, and then what I'd like to do is to encourage you, if you have further questions, to stick around. We are happy to answer questions. There are a bunch of members, very knowledgeable people over in that corner as well. If you've got questions, I'm amazed we've had no money questions here. I was expecting questions about the money.
Hey, Joe, I got a quick one for the audience here.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is.
But we've been on the team, so we know most of the things, where things are. But just for the audience, can you explain where the bathrooms and how many bathrooms are they adequate for what the library of the future?
Sure.
The question is, where are the bathrooms and are there enough of them?
Very important questions. So right now, just so everyone knows, we have two single occupancy restrooms available when the library is open. We used to have 2 additional public restrooms in the community meeting room. We're down to 1 now. So that's what we have for public restrooms in the current building. Totally inadequate. The good news is, in the new building, the first floor will be serviced by 2 multi-stall restrooms. So there'll be a men's room and a women's room. Each one will have 3 separate stalls. There will also, and they'll be over here. Directly across from them, there will be a single stall restroom, so families, whoever would like to use that. And then also on the first floor, there will be a family room, or a family restroom in the children's room, which will be great for caretakers. On the second floor, there will be 2 additional public single stall restrooms. So much better bathroom situation. 2 thumbs up from this library director that deals with a lot of bathroom issues. So.
Final question?
The reading room on the second floor, that's part of the original library. So that's level with the adult section.
That's correct. Yes, the space. I'm sorry. The question had to do with the reading room on the second floor, which is what we currently refer to as the mezzanine level. So that if you were standing in the current library in front of the circulation desk, when you look up, you see a grilled railing. That's the mezzanine. That's the reading room, and that level is, as you say, on the same level as the second floor of the addition. So that'll be a smooth. No, well, that's about half a floor. Yeah, yeah. And if you're really interested afterwards, let me show you how the elevator works on 2 sides to get you up these half floors here.
Well, it's a full floor. It's just kind of a short floor.
We could tell you in numbers of feet, I think, but.
May I ask one more question?
Sure.
So it's my understanding as a regular user of the library that the bathroom issues are not just space; they are infrastructure nightmares, meaning the actual plumbing service to the septic. How is that changing to accommodate all these new bathrooms?
So the question is, how are we going to improve the septic system so the bathrooms actually work?
So recall my story about that pipe that we had to find where it was going. So there is basically what we're doing is replacing the infrastructure in its entirety. So that's really the short answer.
And that includes going out into the,
Yeah,
around the library to solve
yes.
the problems of the bigger
Yeah,
system?
connecting to at the right location with appropriately diameter for the use that we have. Yes.
I would just say, as part of this project, it's been totally fascinating to gain an understanding of everything that goes on that you don't see in terms of the pipes, the electricity, and so on, and the reason that the new library will be canted in the particular way that it is. Right. So, yeah, last.
Actually, one quick one. Is there just 4 public computers?
Oh, that's what is
The
shown.
question is, how many public computers will there be?
Yes, that's what is shown right now. I don't know if that'll be the final number or not. We right now have 12 or so, I think, public computers, and they used to be used consistently all the time. These days, we don't usually have more than 3 people using them at a time. Most people tend to bring their own devices. We will always have public access computers because not everyone can afford their own device or wants to carry it around. So whether it's 3, 4, 5, 6, I'm not 100% sure yet. I think that'll probably be the next level of design, but it will be probably less than we have now. Yeah.
Can I just finish up with my part 2? How are you going to go forward to make this information known to the public? I know you all have been working on it forever. I'm sure you're well versed in it, but I don't feel like I have been, and that's partly my fault. But how are we going to go forward to make the public aware?
The question is, how are we going to go forward to make the public aware of this? And I would answer that, and I'd welcome thoughts from our Ilsley 100 project team. We can only make the public as aware as they want to be. And we appreciate the fact that you have come out to get this information. I, for one, I feel I'm pretty well versed in this, and I've come to the conclusion that not everybody has to be as well versed as I am, and it's going to be okay. We do have to have people come and vote. We will be sending out a flyer to the community shortly before the bond vote, which will give a big picture view of it. We can't give every single person a set of the floor plans, and lots of people don't like to look at them. So we're doing the best we can. We would appreciate all of you encouraging your friends to come to the polls. There will be another meeting 3 weeks from tonight, May 6th at 7 o'clock right here in the town offices. It's a required informational meeting the night before the bond vote. It's going to be less about the design and the project and more about the actual bond itself.
Will there be absentee voting?
Will there be absentee voting? Our town clerk, Karen Mott, will be delighted to send an absentee ballot to anyone who would like one. Her office has already sent out 200?
We've already sent out 250 absentee votes.
Have already sent out 250 absentee ballots to those people who say, hey, please send me an absentee ballot every time something is up for election. Anyone else can get one by contacting the town clerk's office.
There's several ways to do it. You can either show up at our office anytime Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can vote right there or take away a ballot with you. You can sign up for absentee ballots online from your home. Just go to My Voter Page Vermont, and there's a little spot to put in your information. You can ask to sign up for a ballot for just this election or any other election that happens this year, a combination. You can also just give me a call on the phone and say, I want to sign up for an absentee ballot, and I'll fill out your information on the form for you. And either way, we'll either mail it to you, or if you want to show up in person to get one, you can do that. We already had people do it. And we've already had 30 ballots returned, even though the earliest anyone could possibly have received one would have been Friday afternoon.
So Karen Mott, our town clerk, reports that anyone can get an any registered voter can get an absentee ballot by calling her office, visiting the town clerk's office online, or coming into the town clerk's office. She would be delighted to provide you with one. So we hope to see those of you who are interested at the meeting 3 weeks from tonight, and especially at the polls. That will be Tuesday, May 7th. As a reminder, that vote will be taking place here in the town offices, not in the rec center. So the polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
The deadline on the absentee ballots?
What is the deadline for submitting absentee ballots?
So any absentee ballots have to be in by the end of the actual election day, and that's the case for all elections. PM on May 7th, then.
And there's a deadline to pick it up then. I know there's a deadline.
Yeah, I mean, so you can come over and vote, you know, the day before until we're closed at 5. But in order to have one mailed out and assure that it's back in, you know, usually we'll stop doing that a couple of days beforehand. It doesn't mean, if you request one, we'll mail it out to you the day before, even though they'll say, we can't guarantee this is gonna make it to you and it's gonna make it back to you.
So absentee ballots will be accepted up until the close of voting at 7 p.m. on May 7th. If you'd like one mailed to you, you do need to get in touch a few days before in order for that to happen. So with that, I'd like to encourage any of you who might have questions to talk to any of us here, any of those folks back there. We can explain things on the floor plans. We can show you what the views are. Hey, this is a professional tip. It took me forever to figure this out. But if you look at that floor plan over there, there are all these little letters like A, B, C, D. Those are keyed to those pictures over there, which are also lettered A, B, C, D. So if you look at one of those renderings that it says C, then look back on the floor plan and you can see where that photo is taken from. I wanted to thank our panelists, our fabulous director, Dana Hart. Chris Huston from ReArch. Michael Mindanao from Weimann Lamphere. And all those who've helped make this possible. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.